Hey everybody, Edo here, and I am so excited tonight. I've lost my voice. I have Scott Brady on the line. Say hello, Scott.
How you doing?
I am well, and if so, Scott, if you're not familiar, is designer of Hues and Cues as well as Boop. But we actually met earlier when and still an active part of SAHM Reviews. And I want to walk through this whole thing because you have a really interesting journey into games and design. So, just backing all the way up,
Sure.
tell us a little bit about how you got into games and then how you ended up partnering with your wife on Sam Reviews.
Well, I mean, it really it goes way back to when we used to live in Los Angeles area, and we moved back to the Midwest to raise our kids. And my wife was a stay-at-home mom and looking for something to do. And I suggested that because she likes writing, that she start a blog, which was kind of the thing to do at the time. And she began blogging for her just for her own benefit, stories about the kids and things like that. And then over the next, I'd say, 5 years, and this would have been in the late 2000s, over the next 5 years, she started getting contracts from Fortune 500 companies to help market their products via content creation. So she got to appear in a McDonald's commercial with Grant
Oh, neat.
Imahara. She got
Oh,
to
wait, so
visit.
this was even, so was this as part of the stay-at-home mom reviews thing, or
Yeah,
was this just, okay.
yeah. So it started as her first name for it was Sam Ramblings because it was just her rambling about day to day life. And then when she started getting some inquiries from people to write about their products or create recipes or things like that, she changed the name to Sam Reviews. And so she began working with those and was writing probably 3 to 4 articles a week for different companies and taking trips and things like that. And um, we decided that she needed a little bit different content to offset some of the things she was writing about, which was a lot of food products, a lot of household stuff, things like that. So I volunteered to start writing about games. And we had recently, as a family, been playing games. My daughters were in middle school or grade school at that time, and we were playing games as a family and buying games at thrift stores. So we decided to uh, just start writing a weekly article about games we were finding at Thrift.
And so if you think back, I'm curious, I don't know if you know offhand, I didn't prep you, but like what were some of the first games that you were playing? Like what were some of the finds you took from thrift stores first?
Well, I think the best one, and it became kind of a family favorite at the time, was Sequence. And it's still a mass market game, but I mean, something about it grabbed the whole family, and we would sit down and play 3 or 4 rounds in an evening. And that was really our jump into games that weren't Monopoly or Candyland or things like that. I mean, it's not,
That's
today it's not a traditional gateway, but for us it was.
yeah, no, it's a good I mean it's a great game. But so at that time when you're getting games from the thrift stores, you were playing games that were more of that Monopoly, Uno standard fare, and then it was through this thrift shop gaming and the reviews that you started to expand into the hobby. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so once we started playing games at home and some of the non-standard games, that we're all used to, I found a local meetup where the people were meeting at the local chiropractic college, and we decided to attend there one night to see what all these people were doing playing board games, and we were introduced to Pandemic
Oh,
and
there you go.
some more traditional hobby games, and we were hooked from that point on. And that became a regular weekly thing for the entire family to go there on a Friday night and play with. We at the time there was 40 to 50 people coming
Oh,
every
that's
Friday.
a big event.
It was a really good group. Yeah.
And so about how like how much writing were you doing? I mean, this is all I assume written reviews and or whatever the content was. Like how because that's actually I mean for what it's worth, it's how we met.
Right.
Um, early days. I don't remember. I don't exactly remember how I saw your stuff, or maybe you actually reviewed something independently on your own, and I was like,
It could be.
yeah, but so how often were you writing reviews like when you peaked with that work?
Well, so when I started the Thrift series, we were just doing once a week, and then once we started going to these game nights, we realized we started seeing names of publishers we didn't know. And one of the first ones we saw was Tasty Minstrel Games. We were playing one of their games, and um, Nicole and I were talking about it afterwards and said, we have an audience. And at that time, we had about 60,000 unique monthly views and something like 250,000 unique users every year. So and they were all women aged 22 to 45. And that was Nicole's target market with the site. And we
Sure, sure.
decided that, hey, we've got a unique audience. Maybe these publishers would like to utilize us to reach out to a different audience other than traditional gamers. And so we cold called on Tasty Minstrel, and they were super open to it and sent us a game to write about. And we wrote an overview, and they started getting traffic from it, and we could see the results via Amazon sales. So it was kind of a win-win.
And
Um,
actually, let's just stop here
yeah,
because this is a really interesting model. So like just today in the board game review and media site is this mountain of the usual topic about paid reviews, content. Oh, well, you want people to not have have to work for free, or publishers. But what's interesting in your case is you you actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like in addition to posting and doing the review and letting people know about where to get it, you linked it on Amazon, like, hey, here, if you're interested, here's a copy of this. This is where to get it. And Amazon, I think they still have it. I don't know if I think it changed over the years, but it used to be that you got a pretty good referral, which could also include like not only what they bought, but if they came in and they bought a TV,
yeah,
you brought them to Amazon, so like you'd
yeah.
get a little like that. How did it work back then? How does it work now?
So that's exactly how it worked. It's you get a 24-hour cookie when someone clicks through, and anything they purchase on Amazon, whether it be what they click through or something else they added to the cart, you made a commission on, depending upon the category of item. So, for instance, books were lower than some other
Sure.
categories because that was at that time that was what they were pushing still as a company was they were a bookseller. Um, at the time, it was a tiered program that started at 3 or 4% of the selling price of the item. And then, depending upon your volume, you could get up to 8% in the toys and games category, which is primarily where we were selling. And we were at 8% thankfully, because of our other articles, our non game stuff also got us up into those
Sure, sure.
levels. So that was really good for a while. And it was a way to monetize the posts without having to charge publishers for our
Right.
time.
It's
There's a
this
lot of,
totally
like you said,
different
yeah,
avenue to, because it's not like you were part of a journal, you were part of some large journalistic organization that was paying salaries, nor, but not necessarily getting paid directly by the consumer, nor getting paid for your reviews, but this is a sort of different wheel of way that, it's sort
yeah.
of like, it's I mean, it more productive than just banner ads on your site.
Exactly. And that's what we didn't do. We didn't have any ads on our site or anything. We were going for a real clean look and we were trying to monetize it through Amazon. And that worked very, very well for a while. But unfortunately, as companies like Cool Stuff and Miniature Market and the online game vendors got bigger, Amazon got competitive with them and began cutting the commissions in the toys and game categories specifically so they could keep their prices competitive with
Right, right.
other online vendors. So today it's now a flat 3%. So, it doesn't take much to figure out that we're making much less than half what we used to for the
Right,
same
right.
amount of traffic. So, but we still get paid when, they add other things to the cart. Um, which is nice because that can make the average sell price, much higher
Sure,
than a
sure, sure.
$30 game. Um, but it's forced us to monetize in other ways with ads, and we're fortunately have the traffic that we're with one of the largest banner ad companies that that pays for the
Yeah,
majority.
that the benefit of the other content goes a long way, right? The
Right, it
larger.
definitely does, and I think it adds validity. It's not just a game review site. I mean, we're still doing a lot for Netflix and for Marvel and Disney that keep their, to promote their new offerings, and so we've tried to be we've talked about ourselves as kind of the biggest gaming site, not about gaming, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well,
This isn't our primary focus, but the audience is definitely there. And so that was like, that's been right at about 10 years ago that we started this thrift series. And
and look how far you
yeah,
both have come.
but to answer your other question, so at one point we were pushing an article a day. We wanted one fresh article, one
Wow,
1,000 word article
that's a
every
lot of
day,
content.
and did that nonstop for 4 or 5 years at one point until COVID hit, and of course that changed everything for everyone.
Yeah, well, so let's transition here. So you are doing this. You're in the written online media,
Yep.
and really built a pretty successful channel, both through the non-gaming stuff and the gaming stuff. There were some market transitions, and obviously COVID. I mean, how do we get to Hues and Cues? Like, I remember seeing that or you posting about it, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that dude designed stuff. Like, what, how, because, and also, I mean, it's a very approachable game in a big market. I mean, it's a big first game. I mean,
It really
honestly,
it turned out to be, yeah, it did.
how, yeah, so when did you start thinking about designs? How did it happen? What's that story?
So it was actually before COVID, and this dude didn't decide to be a game designer. He was just looking for something. So in my previous life, I was part owner in a company, a printing company, and we made credit cards and ATM cards. We actually manufactured the plastic and the printing on
Do you
them.
know Sherry Shapiro? Spiro, the owner of Breaking Games?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
What's her name? Am I mispronouncing? I apologize.
Almost all those names. I don't.
But
She's the one.
she was like originally printing like cards, and like her background was in printing media, and but like also credit cards, if I'm not
I didn't
mistaken.
realize that.
Yeah,
I'll have
yeah.
to.
I mean, I don't, but like her business, Sherry Spiro, just to
Yeah.
be clear. Sorry
Okay.
again, Sherry. But no, because she got into board games through manufacturing.
Okay.
Um, and I could have sworn she was like she mentioned that, and I was like, really, you guys? Okay, anyway, but that not this
No,
story.
that's interesting because that's a
Your story.
small.
Okay,
So credit card manufacturing is a small industry. There's less than a dozen companies nationwide that actually do manufacturing. So I'll definitely have to have a talk with her about that.
yeah, yeah, okay. But so that's what you did in your
Yeah, so that's what I did. I was in the printing industry, and I kept seeing a lot of games coming out about color, but
right.
none of them were what I wanted in a game about color personally. And so it was 2019, and I just started sketching out some ideas. And my concept was a play on color matching systems. But before you had color matching systems, before printers had these nice Pantone books and things like that, we had to deal with abstract color names, much like shopping at Home Depot for paint. You don't go by the numbers, you go by the goofy name that Sherwin Williams gives them or whatever. Um,
Lavender luster.
exactly, exactly. My wall that we painted last year was reindeer fur, as an
Yeah.
example. So, um, and that's how all printers dealt with color. They tried to match it to abstract names to come to an agreement about what shade of blue you want on your business card. And so that was the idea behind the game. And then I spent a good part of a full year going from a card game to a not card game to a board game before I finally nailed down. At the time, I called it Guess Hue, and that's what I pitched it
Another
under.
another good name. Another good name.
Yeah, I loved the name, but in hindsight, we didn't want to make Hasbro mad.
Sure, sure.
Um, but yeah, it was one of those things where I just made it. We played it at home. I took it to the game nights I mentioned before. They loved it there, and then I took it to we go to Geekway every year, and I took it there to show some of the publisher friends that go there, and they got excited about it and was like, you need to talk to big publishers with this. And I was like, look, I'm just happy to get it published. That'd be the coolest thing. And then it really turned into something much, much bigger. And I know it's not a normal experience for most first time designers, but I was lucky enough that I had multiple publishers making offers on it, courting me instead of me having to court them. It was
It is not
definitely a
common.
weird
I
experience.
have interviewed a few folks that got that experience. Sometimes you just have a lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
So, you ended up publishing with the OP, right?
Right, right. They ended up
How did
taking
what?
it.
How did they win? What was? I mean, you don't have to give me the numbers, but would they just have the best deal? Did they take you out to dinner? Like,
Well,
what was the?
no, so I had a lot of long talks with Tony Cerebriani, who's their inventor relations guy. He was very honest about what they would and wouldn't do with it. And I tell you, I had some great conversations with other companies. I had amazing sit downs with Greater Than Games, with Floodgate. At one point, Cosmos was looking at it, and all the conversations were fantastic. But I ended up going with the op because one thing that they were excited about was they said they were going to put it in there, and they had a name for it. It wasn't Evergreen, but it basically meant their Evergreen line, which means they were going to market it with Telestrations, Blank Slate, and one other that they had at the time that is separate from their IP stuff. And and they were really talking about, the first run was going to be 30, 40,000 units, which was fantastic. It just seemed like, well, and we had actually worked with them through PR agencies on prior game stuff. So we knew that they hired outside marketing firms as opposed to be a smaller
Sure.
company,
Yeah,
one man
bigger,
show.
bigger.
So we knew they were putting their money behind their marketing. And it was it was Gen Con 2019. Was it 20? Yeah, I guess. So I guess I started working on 2018. Gen Con 2019 when I finally chose after one last discussion there, and they were able to push it through, get it into their schedule pretty quick, and were in production when COVID hit. And
Yeah, well, you
that
certainly see it. Did they end up doing that run size, give or take, that you were expecting?
yeah, they did the run size. It was already pretty much almost completely manufactured when all the lockdowns started occurring. And then, of course, there was the fear, oh, we're issuing a 10-person party game in the middle of a pandemic. What's going to happen? But really had no choice, because they didn't want to sit on the product.
Yeah.
So we went and they decided to release it to Hobby first, which was a first for them. And so Hobby got it in May of 2020, and retail, or like Barnes and Noble and Target, didn't get it till August or so. So they had the whole summer to move it through retail, and it did pretty good. Got a big boost from Dice Tower. It won their party game of the year.
Right.
So that was a nice little boost. And now that, as the pandemic progressed, we just saw volumes picking up. Got lucky with a couple TikTok videos that went viral, which of course are non-gamer market, so that was great. Um, I think the first one did something like 3.5 million views or some crazy number like that, and
Oh,
it's
those viral posts.
it really was, and it was it's free marketing, so we were all over that, and yeah, it's been a really good relationship with them. They're a lot more professional than I anticipated. And I mean that in a good way. I mean, but what that also means is, as a designer, I lose a little bit of control. But in
Sure.
hindsight, that's perfectly
I
okay
mean,
because they,
the opportunity to have a game that then can be leveraged and grown in the manner that that's just gonna, for lack of a better way of saying it, bankroll all your future things and your time to do it,
yep,
right? Like, yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so then there's this game Boop,
Yep,
which I admit I didn't know very much about, but I'm looking and it's like a cat quilt with little cat models on it. So like, what is that? And that's not the OP. That's Smirk and Dagger, right?
right. That's right.
And so what is going on with this game? What is it
Well,
about?
all right. So I'll try to keep this brief as
How'd you
possible
get
because
to it?
there's a bit of a story to it.
Okay,
Okay, so and pandemic hits. I'm worried about Hues and Cues party game. Like I said, and everyone's looking for, and especially for Hues and Cues, asking, are there two-player rules? Which there aren't. Everyone's looking for two-player games during the
yep,
pandemic because no one's going out. They're playing with their spouse or whatever. Um, and I love abstract games. That's always
sure.
been what I've personally played growing up. I love playing cribbage and checkers and chess and things like that. So I had this idea for a mechanic that I had never seen done in a published game, and designed this game around the mechanic. And I probably spent 6 months on this and designed it as a just a basic abstract with glass beads and a marble board, and just like you would expect an abstract game would be.
And hold on,
And
before we go, hold on. And the mechanic is what?
the mechanic is, if you think of, so we're calling it a shockwave mechanic is what we're calling
Okay,
it. But what it means is, when a piece is placed on the board, everything around it moves out one space, like a shockwave, like a meteor
sure.
hitting the ground or a splash of the
Yeah,
water.
like maybe like an Othello vibe, but more like an outwards. Like I
Exactly.
put a okay, go ahead. Cool.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So, yeah, instead of flipping like you do in Othello, these actually physically move the pieces out. So, like, it
Okay,
leaves a crater or something. And gave it a thematic Japanese name called Gekatai, which means push away in a military sense. And uh, the ended up publishing it for free on BGG for people to be able to print and
play
play,
at
do,
home. Yep.
during the pandemic. And it got fantastic response, especially internationally, with people playing it, making their own copies. People are uploading their own homemade boards and things like that. So I decided,
Very
well,
cool.
let's see if this is pitchable. And so contacted some people that in the industry. This is, again, thanks to all the work Nicole had done in the industry with SAHM Reviews. We had all the names. We could kind of just drop an
Sure, though.
email.
I mean, if you were like, "Hey, I made that using Q's game. You want to get it on the phone?" I mean, I feel like you could have. I don't feel like you needed that, but I mean,
Well,
certainly, I'm
at
sure it
that point,
helped.
Hues Cues had just been released. I mean,
Oh,
so
okay,
it hadn't gone as viral as it did a couple years later. But yeah, that probably would have opened some doors. But I've never been one to
sure.
really do that, to try to open the door that way. And plus, like I said, we've had such good relationship with so many publishers, like yourself, even, that
Yeah,
over the years,
I would like to point out that you didn't come to Pencil First Games for either of those titles. I would have picked up
there
the
weren't
phone.
there weren't plants on it, and there weren't.
No, I get it. It's
In
fine.
all honesty, I didn't think it was pretty. I didn't think either of them were pretty enough in the state that I had them,
Sure,
because you're
sure, sure.
known for this certain thing, right?
Yeah, it was
And I
just
think
joke.
that's a
Keep going
good
with.
thing.
Yeah,
But so anyway, I talked to a couple people. Gigamic out of France was super interested, but ultimately everyone passed. Didn't want to take the chance on an abstract game in the market. Two-player abstracts, abstracts in general aren't big sellers.
sure.
And even Smirk and Dagger had turned it down because I sent Kurt a copy and he liked it, but sent it back. He's like, I don't. He wasn't sure he wanted to be in the abstract business.
Sure.
So it came back and sat here, and I talked to some other people in the industry about what's marketable, what can we do, and I finally came up with a theme of cats jumping on a bed, um, just actually from watching a TV commercial, and made a little prototype of a bed with, instead of a quilt, it had a board on top, but the side was actually material, so it actually had a bed skirt, and then the cats would jump on the bed, and it fit the mechanic because the cats pounce on the bed and then all the other cats jump away, that shockwave mechanic. Gave it a cute name, called it Pounce House, was my name for it. Loved the name. um,
You got
and
good
then had
names, man.
decided
No one wants to stick with the original names.
no, and I'm okay with that, because in this case, so I showed it again. Kurt and I were both in Geekway again, and he asked what I had done with it, and I showed him, like, oh, let me show you what I've done with this now. And I didn't have to show it to anyone else. I didn't have to take it to Origins or whatever. He was so excited about it, and I knew that with him being a smaller company, that he would really foster its growth and really take care of it, because he's so tied to the profitability of his company,
Sure,
whereas
sure.
an employee at a larger company may not be as tied into that. So it was during a play test that he was doing at PAX U, where one of his volunteers made the comment that they were booping cats off the bed, and the name stuck from right there. He called me and said, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "I love the name Pounce House, but I think this one's much
Yeah,
better."
yeah, and I think it's easy to see why somebody would
Yeah,
see it at a Target or a Barnes and Noble and go want to read some more and see what that's
yeah.
about.
Well, and it also, because it became the sound people make when they take the move, so it became a little more of a vocal game than it was under the name Pounce House. So
Yeah.
if you ever have a chance to see a demo or something at a convention, you walk by the booth, and everyone's going boop, boop,
No,
boop.
it's great. No, awesome. Well, and so it also, I think, is a good demonstration of some perseverance with the design, right? Looking for getting that feedback, getting good response on the print and play side, but finding that hook to make it marketable, right?
And I think that's the key, and I'm sure you can attest to that as well. I mean, you can have a great game mechanically, but you still have to sell the product. And I think a lot of game designers, and I'll put myself in that category, don't have the breadth of knowledge to be able to say, this is how I'm going to make the game and this is how I'm going to market the game. And that's
Yeah.
where going to a publisher who has the experience and the established channels, um, that it's definitely to everyone's benefit to lean on their expertise in those areas. And I'm glad that both the op and Smirk and Dagger have done well for me in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good first two titles. What are you doing more designs? Are you
Yeah, actually, I am. We actually have, I think I can say this without saying too much. There's actually two follow ups planned in the Boop line already. Both are completed designs. One is completed art.
Ooh.
Um, yeah. That one that one hasn't been announced yet as
Don't get
much
yourself in
as.
trouble, man.
Oh, I'm not gonna
My
get myself in
gigantic
trouble on that one. The
audience
other
and
one
my
has been
TikTok
announced.
viral videos.
Yeah. So one should be out this fall, and one should be out in 2024. Um, and then I've got a couple other really interesting things. I see. I don't know about you, but I like to design from mechanic first.
Sure.
I'm not good at picking an IP or a theme and saying let's make a
Sure.
game. That's not how I can do things. And so I've come up with a couple interesting mechanics that have either not been done or have been not done in a long time, that have yielded some really interesting play tests lately. So I guess I have a few more that are in the works that I'll be taking around this season, and see who's interested.
Very cool. Very cool. And are you still writing content as well for the
Yep.
channel?
Yeah, in fact, right before we got on this call, I had just finished one of my articles and proofreading one of Nicole's. So we're still doing that. And, it's one of those things where because the site is monetized by ads and by Amazon, we just have to keep the articles fresh to keep the people coming back. And then, as long as we do that, then it's kind of, self perpetuating as far as, paying for itself. And at this point, it's pocket money. After the fact, it's not as lucrative as it used to be, but it's still there because we enjoy doing it.
Right. It sounds like it's something that you enjoy. It gets you, it forces you to play and engage with your content in a certain way. It builds relationships. I mean,
Yeah,
you do your holiday drive, your holiday thing,
right.
as well. So no, I think it's pretty awesome. But
Yeah, thanks.
and a really nice narrative. It was great to learn about those other titles, and I think it's, I did a yeah. There's a couple of designers who have had some interesting paths, I think along the way. But I hope your designs keep coming together. I look forward to it. I'm hoping to get a chance to play Boop, and I think it'll be a hit. But thanks so much for your time tonight and taking us through your journey.
Oh, sure thing. I hope that we have many more conversations like this.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Have a great night.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks. Bye.